Welcome to the Charter Review Committee, Wednesday, June 7th. It's now 5:03. We have administrative snafu and have started late. Roll call. Richard Angotti,
Present.
Matt Brogdon,
Present.
Bob Higgins,
Present by Zoom.
Gage Monterey,
He's trying to get on right now.
Wally Paul,
Here, yep.
and myself here. Sandy.
Here.
Good enough. Did everybody get a chance to look at the 3 sets of minutes that we've distributed?
Yep.
So, like I said at the beginning, Sandy, I don't know if you were here for that or not, but in the last set of meetings, just so it was recorded, I recorded the color coding for what color blue we were using and what it indicated, and the color red and what it indicated. And I'm starting to put those into the minutes for major changes like we did for one of the sections. I put that in there quote by quote. That way people could understand it was what was being added and what was being pulled away.
Okay.
I motion we accept the 3-minute meetings as read.
So moved.
Second is what we're looking for, Mr. Angotti. I take it you will second the motion.
Second.
Any discussion on the 4/19/23, 5/3/23, or 5/17/23 minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? By roll call vote being on Zoom. Wally,
Yes, I vote yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Matt,
Aye.
Sandra,
Yes.
and I vote yes. 6-0-0 for now.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay, and moving on, the next item on the agenda is the table items, the discussion for public input regarding term limits. Have you all received the latest survey so we can release that to Amber to put out?
Yes.
She modified the comments that I haven't been able to look at my email. I'm on vacation, so I get to look at it very seldomly, but did she
Yep.
did she make that change about the mandatory question?
Yeah, it's optional, you know. people
Yeah,
can
yeah.
answer it.
Yeah,
So that
perfect.
that was the last comment I had on it from anybody.
I didn't know if she came out with a draft after that. That was my question.
The final draft, and you'll find it in your email. I sent it out.
Okay.
Yep.
So is everybody satisfied that we'll let her do that?
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
So do we have to keep this order tabled until that's done?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we can't address building the recommendation until we have the input. Right?
Right.
Okay, so we'll leave that just table item table. Then we step right into C12 page. Paragraph C216, appointment of town manager. You want to take off on that, Matt?
Yep. Give me a second to pull it up.
Sure thing. Let's see what's wrong here. Stop punching holes and putting things. For that.
Okay, I'm not going to be able to see you guys. I don't have my dual monitors, so if somebody needs to tell me to stop, then just yell at me.
We've been doing that right along, haven't we?
Kind of in person, and this is gonna be a different experience on Zoom. Okay, C217, the council will appoint the manager for a definite term and may remove him/her for cause by majority vote of its members at least 30 days before such removal will become effective. The council will be, by a majority vote of its members, adopt a preliminary resolution stating the reason for his/her removal. The manager may reply in writing and request a public hearing, which will be held not earlier than 20 days nor later than 30 days after the filing of such request. After such public hearing, if one may be requested, and after full consideration, the council by majority vote of its members may adopt the final resolution of removal. By the preliminary resolution, the council may suspend the manager from duty, but the regular salary of the manager will continue to be paid to him/her during their period of suspension. If removal is voted, the council will cause to be paid to the manager forthwith any unpaid balance of his salary and his salary for at least the next 2 calendar months. I'm gonna fix all those shalls.
Okay, yeah.
That was 217.
Yep.
Did we already shoot by 216? It's fine. Oh, that's table. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's fixing all the shall wills.
Oh,
Did I get them all or one more? And then all the gender neutral ones, so.
Yeah, I would change that. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, where's the next one?
Right there. Said you.
Yep, right there.
on that C217, I had a note that said, showed deleting a lot of this and said referred to the contract, employment contract. Do you have that note anywhere? Because all this stuff, at least 30 days for removal,
Yeah,
and after such public hearings and stuff like that.
yeah,
I
that
think-
whole, on my notes from last time when we did this, when the other group worked on this, we had 4 cause taken out.
Okay, 1 second.
Hey, Matt, sorry to interrupt, but some of those, the him, her that you changed to them don't sound right.
Just kind of fast paced. It may remove them for cause by majority of its members. Stating the reason for their removal.
Yeah,
And continue to be paid to them during their period of suspension.
In the first sentence, there's a grammatical error too. The council will appoint the manager for an definite term. That should be a definite term. Yeah, right there.
And maybe reviewed by a majority vote.
Yes, and we had 4 cause.
So you want to erase for cause? Is that the recommended
Well,
change?
that's what we had before. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah.
We're discussing it now, so.
I'm assuming the person that just entered was Mr. Modry.
Pardon?
Say that again?
Hold on, there's Gage, is that you on the iPhone?
Oh, talking to Gage.
We might have another episode of what happened at the town meeting.
Yeah, I know, that's why I'm being diligent and keeping
yeah.
my mouse on it. Gage, is
Yeah.
that you on the iPhone?
You might get flashed.
Whoever it is not responding.
He's still loading.
Connecting.
Gage, is that you on the iPhone?
Yeah.
Okay, it is Gage. All right, let me rename him.
All right. Oh, the iPhone name.
I am. I'm doing that right now. All right, there.
You got no picture for him? Is he in the bathtub or something?
Gage, you got a camera or no?
If he's on his phone, it may be harder to.
So the council will appoint the manager for a definite term and may remove them by a majority vote of its members. So we're taking out the for cause.
Instead of putting them there, I would put and may be removed by a majority vote.
I really think for cause has to be in there. You're gonna probably legal, when they look at that, they're gonna say it's gonna have to be in there, but
We'll
I'll
find out where it's get a hold of it. I think you're gonna probably hack us up anyway.
Yeah,
well, that's what I'm saying. I think you're gonna need for cause in there.
I
Because-
agree with Rick.
and I'm also thinking that a lot of this will be irrelevant if there's a contract with the manager that has other terms, so.
That's right. This is why we tried to remove the next sentence. And then kept the sentence, the manager may reply in writing and may request public hearing. Kept that sentence. And then eliminated the rest of that paragraph. And
Okay, so so am I removing this sentence? Was that what you said the first part?
was passed, we eliminated the at least 30 days before such removal.
So that part right there.
And then the next sentence we kept, the manager may reply in writing.
Was that in the original one?
Yes, we're working with the original document. And then we, at the sentence starting after such public hearing, we eliminated that section.
So after such public hearing, if one be requested and after full consideration, the council, that be deleted or after that?
That's to be.
That's to be deleted.
After such public hearing, if one requested. And after full consideration, yeah. that's deleted.
I'm gonna open my mouth now,
Yeah,
because if you expect a manager, anybody coming in here to take on this position, and you've got it so blatantly, for any reason whatsoever, just cross my eyes and you can get rid of me, then without anything, any recourse whatsoever, you're not gonna get anybody.
that's the thinking in doing this in the charter is that depending on what's in this contract, when they get would override this anyway.
No, the charter, your charter is your law. Your contract is a contract,
Exactly, and it's gonna be held up in court.
right?
So if we break our own charter by having something in here that is not in the contract. And the contract spells all this stuff out, if you read his current contract. We've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 managers here, we've had that contract in front of us that. And you can double check that and come back to it later on if you want. But that's just what the original group had come up with. You
Yeah.
want to put back in, we can. It's just verbiage that might be contradicted by the contract. And as such, really shouldn't be in the charter.
Bob has his hand raised.
Hey, Louis.
Yeah.
Hey, Louis, I think the public should have a say in it, though. We can't take them out of the equation, just leave it up totally to the council.
Your council is elected by the public. to represent them.
Yeah,
That doesn't do that, as I said, if you look at the contract that's being used as template, and it has been for the last however many years, it spells out all these, rights and availability to, public hearing and all that stuff. But
and doesn't a public hearing, wouldn't that include public comment?
If it's a public forum, you're absolutely correct, Wally.
yeah, it is.
And that can get into an awfully big,
As a matter of fact, we went through this whole process when Manager Davis got terminated.
We went through this
He didn't-
process.
He didn't even, he didn't show for the executive committee meetings prior to it.
This actually happened with Gene Conalog when he was manager too. There were a minority of counselors that tried to get rid of him. And they wanted to do it in executive session and brought it up as an ambush, and he got wind of it and used this as his mechanism for making them do it in public.
Exactly.
But before we go any further, if people aren't talking, can they mute their mic? There's a lot of feedback.
Okay. I'm willing to bet it's from Louis and I being in the same room using two devices.
Louis' mic's muted, so it's not coming from you guys.
Well, anyway, it's up for discussion. You want to keep that last paragraph in there? Fine. It's up for consensus of the members here.
my personal feeling is it should be in there, Louis, but I'm only one member.
I'm still kind of reading it to me because I agree with Rick, but I'm trying to make sense of why you guys changed it before.
Well, if you'd have a copy of the contract, manager's contract, you probably realize why.
So my question is the manager can obviously appeal. Does that go to the Personal Appeals Board?
No,
It doesn't. It just goes to public hearing.
right. The whole thing about the manager is he's not treated like an employee. He's treated like an at-will employment. And the reason for cause was taken out was because it spells out in the contract that he can be let go for no reason. You don't have to specify a reason, but in the case of the last manager, we did. It had to do with his communications with the council not being, for one thing, candid. And decisions that we could have made that would have tempered the public outcry at the time did not occur timely because of his lack of open communication. Part of it was the lawyer's recommendation to him that he keeps saying it was a personnel issue. But at the point in time that the union wanted a certain certain action taken, the council didn't find out about that communication for a month or so later down the road. So that, that's all history that prompted us to use that particular justification.
I guess I'm in favor of leaving the last part. After such public hearing, if one be requested and after full consideration, the council by majority vote of its members may adopt the final resolution of removal. I'm in favor of keeping that.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
So am I.
Okay,
I
let me go
think
back and-
if that's the only way that the public is going to be involved in that decision, then then that does need to be kept.
Well, it's not taking out the public part because the sentence before says that there would still be a public hearing. It's just removing the part that says that the council by majority vote of its members may adopt the final resolution of removal. It's not
Which-
taking out the public hearing portion.
Okay,
Which is kind of a given. I mean, that's how it happens. He wouldn't be gone any other way.
But if it isn't in there, it is no longer a given.
It may be a given. I get where Rick's coming from. It may be a given to us, but if for some reason 20 years down the line, it's not laid out exactly to a T in a contract, and they have to fall back on the charter and it's not laid out in the charter, then it's kind of grasping at straws.
Absolutely correct.
That's a good point, and that goes with what we've been using for a standard too, so.
Oh, hold on. Let me do some editing. Okay, I got it back. Was there anything else that I missed? Or recommended changes, perhaps?
on the very first line, something, that B doesn't make sense where it should be, okay, it's part of because,
No, it's there
yeah.
was a recommendation to remove there and put something
may-
else.
You want to read what you've got so far?
The council will appoint the manager for a definite term. It may be removed
Removed.
by a majority vote of its members.
So B should have been after May, not after. removed.
Yes,
May be removed.
Yeah.
That's where it was. Yeah.
okay,
That, yeah, good eye. Yeah, good catch.
May be removed by a majority vote of its members. The manager may reply in writing and may request a public hearing, which will be held not earlier than 20 days, nor later than 30 days after the filing of such request. After such public hearing, if one may be requested after full consideration, the council by majority vote of its members may adopt the final resolution of removal. By the preliminary resolution, the council may suspend the manager from duty, but the regular salary of the manager will continue to be paid to them during their period of suspension. If removal is voted, the council will cause to be paid to the manager forthwith any unpaid balance of their salary and their salary for at least the next 2 calendar months.
I guess that's what we agree on.
Yes, yeah. I'm in hopes that after we were frozen out of the manager's office for our meeting, someone will mention to Pete that we had a very long discussion about C-217.
I'm gonna leave that up to
Don't say what
Louis.
it was, just say we had a long discussion about it.
Yeah, and I'll prompt them to go watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else on C-217? All right, C-218, I guess. Interference by council with administrative service. Neither the council nor any of its members will direct or request the appointment of any person to or his or removal from office by the manager or by any of his/her subordinates. Except for the purpose of inquiry, the council may and its members will deal with the administrative services solely through the manager, and neither the council nor any members thereof will give orders to any subordinates of the manager, either publicly or privately. All right, gonna do some editing.
yeah,
There and will.
And his, her, yeah.
There.
All right, did I miss anything?
I don't believe so.
Nope, I did. One more.
Oh, okay.
Oops. All right. Any changes?
18, no, not from what you've read.
No, I agree with everything on that statement.
Going once. Twice. So. All right. C219, recall of the elected official, added on the 9/26/1985 by order number 485. Any person elected to any office in the town of Millinocket may be recalled and removed therefrom by the electors of the town as herein provided. Are we gonna do this by section as we usually do?
Question first, do we know that this is what is the updated one?
In regards to,
In regards to the order number 4-85.
oh, I see what you're saying.
This is
So-
the added.
Do we have the updated order?
The heading says recall of elected officials.
But this code book that we copied may not have it, just because it says recall of elected officials added on 5/26/85 by order. Was there any change in that order versus what is there, is all I'm asking.
And I'm assuming this is what was added.
Yes, and
Well, we
I would
can't-
assume that too, just by the label put on it.
We
This
can't
section-
assume.
This recall may not have been in the charter before 9/26/85. Because it says added 9/26/85 by order. So if you look up that order, you'll see the same section.
Is there an online database full of our past orders or no?
I doubt it.
Not that I know of. That's one of those things that Diana has to work on in her spare time.
Yeah, right.
So do we want to operate under the assumption that it is or no?
I would.
I think we do.
Okay, not hearing any opposition. Section A, procedure for the initiating recall petition. Subsection 1, any 30 qualified voters of the town may make and file with the town clerk an affidavit containing the name of the elected official whose removal is sought. Those 30 qualified voters will be referred to as the recall committee. The affidavit will also contain a statement detailing the reasons why recall is sought. The statement detailing reasons for removal will thereafter be made a part of the recall petition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a period right there, right where your cursor is, that needs to come out. There you go.
A lot of translation errors. So any changes to that one section or no?
No, it's
I had none.
makes sense to have that, their reason for recall being the heading of the petition.
And that's 30 is kind of an arbitrary number, but it's big enough so that it has to be serious, but not so big that it can't be done.
And given the last numbers we've been dealing with for election is 25.
I thought that was written in there that you had 20% of the number of the qualified voters.
That's further down.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not to take out the petition.
right.
To take out the petition, it's different. It's a static number.
Yeah, I agree with Wally. Since my tenure, I've seen, I think 2 or 3 petitions be pulled. One of them made it back, but 2 of the people were not qualified voters, so it failed. So I think it's a very, very good number to make it serious, but also make it so it's not, super difficult to do.
Right. Yeah.
In one other place where we had changed the wording to the town of Millnocket,
Oh, yes. 30 days.
rather than just saying the town.
Thank you for getting that.
Keep them right on task there, Sandy.
I do my homework.
Okay, anything else for section 1?
No.
Subsection 1. Subsection 2,
No.
upon filing of the affidavit by the 30 qualified voters and acceptance of the affidavit by the town clerk will prepare a recall petition relating to the elected officials named in the affidavit. The recall committee will have 30 calendar days from the date of acceptance of the affidavit by the town clerk to cause the petition to be signed by not less than 20% of the qualified voters of the town. The petition will be available for signing only at the town clerk's office during normal business hours and will be signed by qualified voters in the presence of the town clerk or the deputy town clerk. At the end of the 30 calendar days period, the town clerk will declare the recall petition closed. All right.
30 days to get signatures.
One suggestion that we had from the last time when we worked on this was going from 25% of qualified voters to 25% of local voters in the last presidential election in local Millinocket presidential election.
Hold on, but so I have 20, not 25.
Oh, did I say 25? Sorry, I meant 20. I've got it written as 20.
Yeah. Yeah, we wanted to make sure that the 25% would apply to an election that had a good turnout, not
Yes.
an off year.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't want the school budget election to be 20% of that because it would have had that already.
20% of 100 people.
Yeah.
Oh, I get where you're coming from. Yep.
Yeah, I do too, and I agree with that.
We're just trying to make the number more possible without making it easy. You know, we don't need to have elections every 3 or 4 months because somebody gets pissed off and it's easy to do.
Yeah.
But that was in there before. It was in the last, should have been in there that it said the last gubernatorial election, if I'm saying it right, which should have been the last presidential election.
Not in there now.
But it was in there before.
When?
Before 9/26/1985, probably.
You remember that from before 1985?
I
I'm
don't.
saying that in talking, because we've had this discussion before, when I was the interim. And because there was a couple of that were tried to take out petitions. And Diana looked it up in the charter books that she had, and it was in there based on the last gubernatorial election, if I'm saying that word right.
You
Yeah.
are. So my question is the books at the town office printed after 1985?
That is my point.
Well, I have the hardbound charter in the other room here. You want me to dig it out and research it?
I think it would definitely help in the future with questions that may come up.
Hey, Lynn, you up there?
All right, I gotta step away for just a second anyway.
You wanna go see if you can grab it?
Yeah. Where is it, Louis?
Go through that bedroom door there. Yeah. There's a light there. Straight ahead, straight ahead. Yeah, turn the light on. Turn the light on so you see what you're doing. Straight ahead in that brown. The red one, yeah. Well, there you go. Let's put the seat. 9 feet. This is the book I got when I was first elected back in 8 years
So
ago.
This is, what is it, 3?
Uh,
No, 2?
Page C14.
What's the code number on it? The first page.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah.
See the book? Remember those, Rick?
Say
I
again?
can't see it. Hold on.
All he has to do is swipe his screen left and he'll see it.
I can't see. I see code of the town of Millinocket.
Oh, well, let's see. I took the first page open. It says General Code Publisher Corps, Rochester, 1987.
So that is after. Now, if we go to this section, is gubernatorial in the,
This book was always updated by pulling pages and adding pages.
Yeah. And what they did is they just
Larry,
gave
will you
pages to
turn off
people
the
they knew
heat?
had books and hope they did it.
Yeah. Well, the last time it was done, they took our books and then gave them back. The pages are numbered differently here, after 68.
the number should be on, oh yeah, never mind. C14, that's where it's at.
Yeah, that's what I say.
Just these chapter number.
Administration, government. The code. Charter. Charter C17.
Charlie Ewing,
217.
Page C14, right here.
I had a picture of him. What was looking for you?
No, I forgot what the heck I was looking for. Yeah, I get,
Oh, the 20% of the gubernatorial or 20% of the election, second sentence
oh,
in
okay.
2.
The recall commission shall have 30 calendar days from the date of acceptance of the affidavit of town clerk. The petition be signed not less than 20% of the qualified voters on the petition shall be available to sign town clerk. Office 1,000 shall be signed qualified voters in the presence of the town clerk at the end of the 30 calendar.
Oh, yeah.
So that book does not say
Louis'
gubernatorial.
book is the same as the text we're working on.
Yeah, it's 12, the date on that page is 12/25/93, which is the same as the one we're looking at.
Yeah, and the one that I have says 12/25/93 as well.
And all I'm gonna ask is that we check with Diana.
Yeah, well, the time frame of what you're talking about was after 93. Right, Richard?
Again, all I'm gonna say, Louis, is we need to check with Diana to make sure it is correct.
The person that you said was being addressed here, and the petition that you're talking about, and that she checked and told you that it was gubernatorial, that was work done after 93, because Diana hasn't been here since 93.
Right.
And this is the way, what we're looking at right now, what's been in the code book since 93. So whatever she
I get
said,
where Rick's coming from, though. If
So-
the town office doesn't have an updated copy that we're currently operating by, then there's inaccurate information going out.
If there was an amendment to this,
okay, so you're saying there was an order passed, but was
I-
never
I'm-
incorporated in with the,
correct.
so, I can do that. There's a whole bunch of orders that may have happened since 93 that affect the charter,
Correct.
but they're not legal unless they're part of the charter.
So
They're
my
legal if they were-
recommendation is similar to Rick's. I think gubernatorial should be in here.
Yeah, well, I would say presidential.
That is the presidential,
Yeah, or gubernatorial, because it's the same time, right?
Is it?
right? Yes,
Or whatever word you like it,
Yeah,
as long as it's the one that the president's being elected in, because bound to have the turnout at the polls.
yes, and that's what we're looking for. That's what our best reasonable poll count.
So that's that, the recall, what do they have, long sentences, huh?
Yeah,
So that would be added at, end of the 20% of qualified voters of the town of Millinocket in the last gubernatorial election.
Anybody know how to spell that? Because I sure as hell don't.
Yeah, that's why I like presidential. I know how to spell that one.
All right. I don't know how to spell gubernatorial. Gonna be completely honest with you. I wasn't that good in English. So if somebody has it, then I'll take it. But if they don't, I'm putting presidential.
yeah.
Gubernatorial.
Gubernatorial.
One more time.
Gubernatorial.
What's it mean?
Presidential
What?
election.
Right, yeah, for governor. It's a governor's election.
Or governor, yeah,
Which happens at the same time as the.
pretty much,
It's a
yeah.
presidential. Yes,
And where do
it's
we want to
Maine.
put it?
It's a main town with a main,
Put it at the end of the sentence that mentions 20%.
So at the end of the 30 calendar day period, the town clerk will declare it now. Have 30 calendar days from the date of acceptance of affidavit, the town clerk to cause the petition to be signed by not less than 20% of the qualified voters of the town of Millinocket.
In section
During the
3,
last,
In the last.
no, I think it's gubernatorial, isn't it? Not
Yeah.
goober. We're not voting for goobers
No.
here.
oop,
Gubin, Gubinat.
it says that's wrong spelling. That's why I
Yeah, well,
changed.
Yeah, well, now check the spelling and see what it,
Somebody Google that word.
I did. Gubernator.
Yep.
is. Yeah, all right.
T-O-R.
It is. It is goober.
So I was right.
You were right. I'll say it. You ought to hear it at least once. You were right.
It wasn't me, it was the computer. I didn't know how to spell it. Any other changes?
Does the colon need to come out of the beginning of that sentence? The recall committee will have 30 calendar days from the date of acceptance of the affidavit by the town clerk to cause.
I think
Why
that
was-
was a translation error.
Okay,
Because it's not in this copy.
You gotta remember any little divot in the page or any mark that was made with a pen shows up when I translate it from Adobe. So I had to manually edit those out. There was like 5,000 of them. So
Oh, yeah.
if I missed a couple, I apologize.
No doubt.
Anything else in subsection 2?
Not for me.
All right, subsection 3, the recall petition to be effective will have been signed by voters of the town, numbering not less than 20% of the number of qualified voters is determined at the time of the last municipal election, and each voter's signature will be followed by the voter's place of residence with a street number or other description of sufficient to identify the place.
shouldn't that to say the same as the 20% one above?
It
Yes,
should.
Yeah.
Municipal should be gubernatorial.
yeah.
Right.
The goober in there.
all right. And this should say,
Town of Millinocket.
Lawyer's gonna have field day with, mucking this up.
you better not.
I'm betting he changes every one of our wills back to shall.
Me and him will have words if that's the case, Sandy.
That's right.
All right. The recall will be signed by the voters of the town of Millinocket, numbering not less than 20% of the number of qualified voters is determined at the last preceding gubernatorial election, and each voter's signature will be followed by the voter's place of residence with a street number or other description sufficient to identify the place. Should it say identify place of residency?
Or identify the individual.
Yeah, that one or the other.
Scroll back up, Matt, please. A little bit more, yeah.
Okay, say that again. What was your question?
Oh, hold on one second. I'll scroll back down and I'll
Followed
read it
by
to you.
the voters' place of,
Will be followed by the voter's place of residence with.
With the street number or other description sufficient to identify the place.
I
Yeah,
think
that's-
that whole end is unnecessary.
Yeah, typically those petitions you see have your
Yeah,
signature, your printed name, your address.
that's right.
Right,
Yeah,
so that's correct.
So you think, so this reads fine at the end, sufficient to
Yeah.
identify the place?
Right, because at the end of the sentence, they're talking about the street number, the resident with the street and
Oh,
number.
okay, I see now. Yep. Any changes?
I'll give you an example of that is somebody fills it out and they just put down, they scribble in 8.
Remember how hard to do it on a
Something.
petition.
Well, if I can't identify that street name, then it's disqualified.
Correct.
And if their signature is not identifiable to the person,
Well, the printed name, Louis.
yeah, well, it doesn't say anything about a printed name here.
Yes,
Oh,
but what, I don't understand what the end of that sentence, let me find it here. Or other description sufficient to identify the place?
The
What,
home residency.
Sufficient to identify the person and place.
so should it say each person's signature and printed name?
Well,
I think it's redundant. If we're,
Yeah,
Is
but
it
if you're only
determined once
requiring a signature,
no, actually, I think Louis is making a good point here. If you want your petition to be official, it should be their signature and their name, their printed name, and their address.
and I agree with you, Wally, and I just want to see it put in the charter so that it's spelled out in the charter. Because somebody could misinterpret that and say, well, I only had to put down a signature. And you
Right.
can't read that signature. How do you know who it is?
right,
Each voter's signature shall be followed by the printed name, the voter's place of residence, and with the street and number or other description.
Correct.
Okay, so
That I
that,
agree with. Because you gotta have the printed name in there so that you can identify that. Because if I'm signing it like a doctor, you ain't gonna be able to understand it.
so do you want me to add on to the end of this sentence? Or put it before?
Followed by the voter's
both places,
printed name,
in both places.
comma,
The reason you're given these instructions is sufficient to identify the person and place.
Right. now there, printed name, place of residence with the street and number or other description sufficient to identify the place. That is correct.
My question was, should it say place or address? Or home residency?
The
Just for
place,
clarification.
because home residency would, if I'm renting, that's not our home residency.
Well, then
rental.
residency.
Well, the whole place of identifying, the whole reason for identifying the place is that the clerk will know whether or not it's a Millinocket address.
Right,
And not a post office box.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
that's right. That's right.
So I'm changing it or I'm not? I'm confused.
No,
Okay. So any other changes to that section?
Not for me.
Not for me.
All right, section B, examination and the certification of recall petition. Within 10 business days after the closing of the petition, the town clerk will assertion whether or not the petition was signed by the, by the requester's number of voters, and upon such findings will attach a certification to the petition stating that the petition has the required number of signatures of qualified voters, that all signatures were affixed in the presence of the clerk or deputy clerk, that each signer has the opportunity to read the statement detailing the reasons for recall, and that the petition is sufficient. Should fewer qualified voters than required hereunder sign the petition within the required time, the petition will have no further force or effect, and all proceedings will be terminated.
Okay, before we address that, that verbiage brings me back to something we might have missed earlier. Here it spells out the signatures have to be made in person in front of the clerk, deputy clerk,
Correct.
and back in subsection 2, where it talks about the 20% of qualified voters, maybe we should specify where those signatures have to take place.
that's for the petition.
Yeah,
And then the next portion of
This
it, the
sub-
the recall petition has been approved. And now you have to get that 20% of the number of qualified voters to sign the recall petition in front of the clerk.
So subsection 2 of A is stating the affidavit, where subsection B is referring to the actual petition.
Correct.
well, let me read that again then.
Well, and so the petition to get the 20% or to get the 30 people can be circulated outside of the clerk's office?
Correct.
Just
Where the-
like as if they were going to, file for being a counselor, they can go out and have people sign their petition.
Their nomination papers.
Correct. I was using the petition as an example.
Yeah.
This subsection B is referring to the petition.
Correct. Subsection 2 of A is referring to the affidavit.
Really?
Upon file, A subsection 2, upon filing the affidavit by the 30 qualified voters and acceptance of the affidavit by the town clerk will prepare a recall petition relating to the elected official named in the affidavit. The recall committee will have 30 calendar days from the date of acceptance of the affidavit by the town clerk to cause the petition to be signed by no less than 20% of the qualified voters of the town of Millinocket in the last gubernatorial election. The petition will be available for signing only at the town clerk's office during normal business hours and will be signed by qualified voters in the presence of the town clerk or the deputy town clerk at the end of the 30-day calendar period. The town clerk will declare the recall petition closed.
It does spell out that they have to sign in front of the petition.
Yes, yeah.
So they can't,
Section,
Sandy, they can't take it out to the street.
Right,
People go to the town office to sign.
no, just the affidavit can go out, correct?
No, because
No.
it says. Says
The
two
petition
copies of
can go out.
the
That's what I
petition can
meant.
go out,
Yeah, the 30
No,
qualified
no.
voters can be signed outside is what I meant.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The 30 people starting it can be signed outside, but the 20% that we're looking for have to be signed
At the town office, yep. And it does mention that in B as well.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So any changes to B other than shall and will?
I didn't have any.
No, me either.
Okay. Section C, calling of the recall election. If the petition will be certified by the town clerk to be sufficient, the clerk The clerk will submit the petition with certification to the town council within 5 business days of the certification as sufficient, and will notify the elected official whose removal is sought of such action. The town council. Oh my gosh, that's annoying.
Will Erpen.
It's blocking it. I can't read it. Within 10 days of the receipt of the town clerk certification, order an election to be held not more than 45 days after the receipt to submit to vote the question of recall. If recall is effective, the town council will, within 45 days after the vote for recall, hold a special election to fill the vacancy, provided, however, that if a regular municipal election is to occur within 6 months after the vote for recall, the town council may in its discretion hold the election to fill the vacancy on the date of such other regular municipal election. The recall election will be called and held, and nominations to fill any vacancy created by that recall election will be made as in other elections under this charter. It's a lot of reading.
Back up, Matt, just before within 10 days, the thereupon needs a space. Yep.
Anything else? Going once, going twice. So, Section D, form of ballot and recall election. The form of the ballot at the recall election will be as follows. 1, will name the persons proposed for recall. A member of the Millinocket Town Council and or the Millinocket School Committee be recalled. Immediately below such question will appear in the following order the words yes and no, and to the right of each word a square with which the voter may cast his vote.
I had a question that the Millinocket School Committee should be changed to board. Isn't that what they're called? School board?
Yes.
I know it's just an example, but I think Louis is right. That's why he invited me over. I keep saying things like that.
All right, anything else for D? Section E, majority vote required. The elected official whose recall is sought as provided above will be recalled and immediately removed from office with a majority of those voting thereon voting thereon will have voted in the affirmative. The successor elected after recall will serve for the balance of the unexpired term for the recalled official.
Mhm.
You've, g-
Something's questioning my,
Sorry,
Matt, we gotta,
what?
we gotta change something up above, just after cast. It should be their vote, not
Section D.
his. Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Sorry about that. I was
That's okay.
trying to
Thank
get
you
off
for the
mute.
catch.
I was trying to get off mute so I could tell you.
Okay, so the successor elected after recall will serve for the balance of the unexpired term of the recalled official.
who is the successor? There's nothing in there that says that you have to have a successor in there.
It's stated in C.
D.
Yeah.
C.
Yes, in the elections.
Okay.
Re-election, yeah.
C states how the election will take, or C states how the election will take
President.
place and how it will be nominated. D is the ballot and E is referring to C.
Okay. I must have
Any
had a-
changes to E?
No, look clean to me.
All right, so we're ready to move on to Article 3.
Unless you get the shall you miss there or whatever.
Did I miss one?
There's one in there.
He changed them.
Yeah, we haven't done C301 yet.
No, it's talking about E. On tonight.
I got them all. There was 3.
Yeah, okay.
is
All right.
today.
Article 3, Town Manager, C301 Qualifications. The town manager will be chosen by council solely on the basis of his character and his executive and administrative qualifications, with special reference to his actual experience and/or his knowledge of accepted practice in respect to the duties of his office as hereinafter set forth. At the time of his appointment, he need not be a resident of the town or state. Before we start talking about this, I'm going to do all the grammar changes and shall, will, he's, and
Yeah,
whatnots.
okay, and his to theirs,
yes, that too.
The
okay.
last one should be.
I had, in the first sentence, solely crossed out. The town manager shall be chosen by the council on the basis of his character and executive administrative qualifications.
I agree with that, but please give me 1 second.
Yeah, okay,
I can only go so fast, please.
Trying to take care of grandma.
yeah.
Bottom line, Matt,
Did I miss another one?
at the time of his appointment,
Okay. And there.
They need not be elected.
There. Duties of there.
There's one right above it too.
There. There. Okay, and you're recommending we erase solely.
the last there should be they.
Oh,
Need
yeah,
not be-
sorry, I got so into it.
You didn't realize you had 6 English teachers watching you do that, don't you?
Oh, it's great. Okay, so you're recommending that solely be removed.
I had solely crossed out. And I had special in the third sentence, qualifications with special reference. Just qualifications with reference to his actual,
And the word. And related.
okay, I'll read what I have, just to see if it makes sense. The town manager shall be chosen by the council on the basis of their character and their executive and administrative qualifications, with reference to their actual and related experience in or their no, I don't understand that, in or their knowledge of accepted practice in respect to the duties of their office as herein set forth. So I had solely and special crossed out. And after actual, I had and related experience.
Yeah,
And that's just, that, again, that's just me,
that speaks volumes to the last manager that was hired, given he didn't have actual experience.
yeah,
In municipal administration.
yeah. The smaller your town gets, the more latitude the people hiring need.
I agree. And the last, for those that weren't involved, the last manager search was a nightmare considering the amount of applicants we had. And it made it very, very, very difficult.
Yeah, we went over a year just doing 2 searches.
Yep. So I agree with more latitude. Do we want something in there about, well, I guess it's redundant to if they're not currently a resident of the town, but does there want to be a section that states that they'll be eventually, or do we want to leave it out? I know there's been discussions on the current manager's contract versus past managers that have lived up at the lake.
I think limiting it's gonna limit you to,
I agree. I was playing devil's advocate and just asking the question.
Well, the only thing I'm gonna say there is if you take and say you take somebody from out of state that they're gonna come here for the week and then they're gonna head home, or they're gonna just take their laptop home with them and work from home in Florida, and it doesn't really bring them in communications with the citizens. Having them a resident of the town does that.
there again, you're limiting yourself to Joe Blow down the corner versus somebody that has qualifications.
See, I agree with Rick in the retrospect that within a certain radius of Millinocket should be required. Whether it be 100 miles to give them leeway between a couple of towns in the lake, or even, just the state, if we really want to push the boundary, must be a resident of the state or will eventually be a resident of the state. I think, like Rick said, managing a municipality from Florida or Alaska is kind of redundant.
You know what you're
Kind of
doing?
left field.
You're opening up to another survey question.
Yeah, and you know something? Like, for example, when Gene Conalog was manager, he had an apartment in Millinocket and his wife lived in Caribou, I think, and he drove home every weekend.
Correct.
I don't think that's unreasonable to expect your town manager to reside in town once they're hired. They have a contract and
I think rather than putting this limitation in the charter, that can be addressed by each council of the time in the contract.
So should we put that in there at the time of their appointment? They need not be a resident of the town or state, but will be further discussed in contractual talks, or
Or
I'm just, again, I'm throwing out ideas.
no,
I think there has to be something put in there. You can't just leave it.
I think the point.
Well, right
Last-
now it's saying at the time of their appointment.
Yeah,
Correct.
They need
I'm
not be a
saying
resident.
add something in there stating that they will become a resident of the state or will become a resident of the town.
and
I don't
say-
think resident of the state is good enough. I'm sorry. I want someone who is managing a town to be at least available. And if they're in Portland, they're not really available to us.
I agree with Sandy.
And I agree too. I was just saying, again, I was throwing out ideas. Me personally, I would expect somebody to live within just like a firefighter EMT. We're held to a
With-
standard that we live within a certain radius of the of the municipality if we're going to stay at home during off hours. It kind of I'm kind of throwing out ideas. I think within 100-mile radius is fair. That gives them the chance to live between East Millinocket, Medway, Lincoln, and some parts of Bangor and still be able to come and do the job.
Okay, the last sentence, if you added this to the last sentence, and I'll read the sentence. At the time of their appointment, they need not be a resident of the town or state, but need to become a resident shortly after,
Well, I disagree with that. Listen.
or
I
become a
think-
resident
Within a
within a
half
period.
hour's drive or something. Just for an example, I was an X-ray technician for many years. I was on call. I had to live within a half hour of the hospital. If you put that someone can live within a half hour of being able to get to town, that seems reasonable to me.
Listen,
I agree with you, Sandy.
listen. I think you're hamstringing future councils by putting that limitation here, and where it starts out at the time of hire need not be, leaves it open to the possibility that he has to be, which is to be addressed by the current councils in the contract versus.
But-
I don't agree with that.
This is a narrowing of the,
But it opens you up, Louis, to, if I was going to be running for the town manager's position and I was from Florida, and I said, look, you really want me that bad? Then you're gonna leave me in Florida. And you're gonna say yes to that? You're gonna have a petition for a recall
we may
vote.
not, we may not, Richard, we may not.
But
But you
I'm
don't
just,
know what 50 years is going to bring to the people
Well,
in this town. And the
that-
elected officials then may want to have something different in this contract.
then they can revisit the charter and they can change it then.
Yeah, right. The charter gets changed on a whim, right? Sure.
Yeah.
I agree that it needs to be within a certain radius. I think 100 miles is more than fair. Bangor is so close to 70 miles away from the town of Millinocket. That gives them leeway to live where they need to and still be within an hour drive of the
Within
town. I
100
think that's more
nautical
than
mi-
fair.
Within 100 nautical miles.
Why an hour's drive and not an hour's flight time to Boston?
I don't know. I think that our chief administrative officer should live here.
And I agree,
And
but
I think that most people applying for the job would expect that.
I would hope they would.
And I
Yeah.
agree, but I get wanting to live outside, of the municipality. Living up at the lake is a great example. If I had the money today, I'd go buy a house up on Smith Pond and live there all year round, but I can't because I'm a counselor. There are certain limitations. What about South Twin? What about North Twin? They're still within, a 20-minute drive, but they're still an active member. There are teachers that live up at the lakes, but they're still active members of Millinocket. But they
But
have
that's
to.
not, the lake isn't 100 miles away. I think 100
Correct. I'm
miles away
using that
is
as
too
an
far.
example. I was using that as an example.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And-
Yeah,
Teachers live in Bangor.
There are teachers that work and there are teachers that work from Bangor.
I'll concede to one point, Matt, that if it's good enough for counselors, it's good enough for the manager.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's a good point.
But you just gotta realize it's going to limit. Just go ahead, Matt, recall what we did for 2 surveys and the interviews and those.
I don't think it's recalling anything. I think it's giving them plenty of leeway to pick where they want to live within a certain radius.
I also think if you put some radius into the charter, if I remember when Peter Jameson was asked them to change his contract, some members of the town were upset by that because he did not give a radius. And so if I want to be town manager and I want to live in, say, Portland, the town council could approve that for me. But if the next one comes along and Matt wants to run for town manager, and he says, well, I want to live in Kittery, you can keep going further and further.
Maybe we're not putting the right restriction here. Maybe the restriction that we want is the amount of time the manager must spend in Millinocket, so many days a week or whatever. And then they can decide if they want to travel back and forth or live here.
But then you're still restricted. I mean, I get that eliminates somebody being hired from out of state because then they would be renting all the time. But I mean, I'm fine with it, but I think it's kind of the same thing we're asking them to do now.
what you're asking that person to do is the same thing you're asking your councils to do. Be within the earshot of the residents of the town of Millinocket. And if the,
That's what we have That's so they can have the cars honking in front of your house when you do it wrong.
That is correct.
I haven't had that happen yet.
Lucky you.
Yeah,
I still have it
Looking
happen.
back, though, when that happened, they bypassed my house, they zipped by and I hear them down the street at Gilda's.
So I guess we're still at a standstill on what we want. Some people have said need to be in Millinocket, some have said not at all, some, like me, have said within so many miles.
Well, for me,
So-
it's like if I want someone to be like, that high up and in charge in this town of Millinocket, I would prefer it personally as like a, as a member of the public, to have it be someone that is, fluent in with like Millinocket, not somebody that's, someone that applied for the job, but they live, so far away they barely even really dealt Millinocket or what kind. So not so much that it restricts the distance, but somebody that's obviously familiar and comfortable with the area to be able to kind of.
Look at it this way, depending on the financial wherewithal of the candidate that's hired as manager, he could have a dump in this town for a residence and fly out Friday at 4:30 to wherever he wants to go and show back up Monday morning. So no matter how you try to change it, there's a loophole for these people.
Yeah.
If they have the wherewithal.
and even without the wherewithal, if they want to commute, if their wife lives in Bangor, if it's a man, their spouse lives in Bangor, so they stay up here all week, then drive home on the weekend or whatever.
Mm.
The way it is right now, what it's saying is at the time of their appointment, it gives them a shot to, what we're saying is they can come from anywhere to hire them. Leave it contractual. Every council has options. I think they should live here, but that should be up to the council. Maybe there's a good reason that someone would say to me, Wally, it has to be this way. And I'd say, oh, yeah, I see your point. It's good, but
They may hire an AI manager that'll never have a place residence.
50 years from now, you don't know.
You don't
You
know.
don't know.
You don't know.
I'm surprised all the time.
I still stand by what I said.
I would expect my elected officials to represent me as a resident of the town of Millinocket to ensure that that manager was a resident in the town of Millinocket. If not, if that's the way the council wants to be and they want to pick anybody from Hoboken, New Jersey or wherever, then come the next election, they're gonna have to answer to it.
If that's a change, that's a drastic one in the charter, right?
Mhm.
Major change. Is that something we want to put out the survey question again?
I'd recommend putting out the survey.
Second,
Say that again, Bob.
Well, we have a discussion on the motion and second. It's a motion to put out a survey question regarding should the manager be a resident of Millinocket? Now, just think of all the permeations of that
Yeah,
question that we
yeah.
just went through, and how are we gonna create a sound survey question? Look at the trouble we just had.
Yeah,
Doing the simple one we just did.
people will automatically say yes to that.
so I think that it needs to be laid out similar to what we did with the council one. And have it state, do you think the manager should be a member resident of the town of Millinocket? If the answer yes. Or have it stated in there, do you feel they should live within, it is a tricky question, I get where you're coming from, but I think if we lay it out similar to how we did the council one, it will be fine.
You want to take on that chore, because I just managed the one that we just did, and it was a pain in the butt. Do I have a volunteer to handle that with Amber and getting the blessing from the manager?
I know the motion's been made already, but
Yeah, we're discussing the motion.
I don't think that every time we have a question, it should be put out for a vote.
Yeah.
I think it would be reasonable if we actually had public opinion during our meetings. I agree, but some of these
And if
questions
they
we
were
do have to
interested,
ask.
if they were interested, they'd be on here, wouldn't they, Matt? If they
Some of them
were,
are interested. We've had people show up to council meetings and complain about this single question.
That's why I'm saying it should be asked. I mean, you can put in there,
Then again,
within a certain radius, time frame or time limit driving time, or do they need to reside here during their work week? It needs to be defined because it was a very sensitive subject with a lot of the people of the town.
A
So
lot
they
of
should
people.
have their input.
it
They need
should
to have
have
their
been
input.
because the only recent counselor who has lived in town, or the only recent manager who has lived in town is on our committee, Ms. Rangotti.
Oh,
I mean,
Manager Davis was also.
Yes.
yeah, and some of the interims were.
But I also don't want to take that opportunity for them, like, okay, you have a camp up at the lake. You don't want to take that away from them that they can't stay there. That's why it's got to be like they should be able to go there and stay on the weekend.
I agree
But
with, or
The
even live
definition of a
there.
resident of the state is live within the town 6 months and 1 day. If they go up to the camp and visit on the weekends, that's not restricting them at all. It's the part that I'm making a fuss about is whether or not they live 6 months and 1 day within 100 miles of Millinocket. Not 2 states away managing it from a computer. Or
But
live in Portland or Kittery, like you said, Sandra.
Matt, how does that address the contention that you want them to be in touch with the town if they live, let's say, in Bangor 6 months and, you know, they're not gonna be experiencing the flavor of Millinocket if that's the case.
I never said that. I said I wanted them to be within, sort of like what Richard said, within earshot. If they have to come to town, they have to.
Yeah,
I worked in Bangor for 3 years and I was on call all the time and I managed to go down when they needed me. And I would expect somebody of administrative level to be within earshot and when needed to be here, needs to be here. And not 5 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours from when they need to be here.
And for me, to address that, I would say they'd have to be in town for Monday through Friday, their work week.
An example, Louis, is you all had to take the training for FEMA in case of an emergency. And the manager is that person who's in charge of the emergency when it comes to that level. The next person above that is the chairman of the town council, and all of the councilors are a part of that. Your councilors have to live in town. Your manager has to be in town to be able to facilitate that emergency.
And play devil's advocate here. All these recommendations we're making, maybe we're making too much of it going out to surveys because it's going to be a whole other process. Exactly what we're doing is going to have to occur.
But I think with a statement that we have here right now, but needs to become a resident within 100 nautical miles of the town of Millinocket, gives you the latitude as a town council to hire somebody that doesn't necessarily want to live in Millinocket. Bangor is the closest large community that their spouse wants to live in, which gives you the latitude to still hire them, but yet gives us the latitude to say they have to be a resident within the state of Maine.
I think before we decide to send this to survey like been motion, why don't we see how our current survey goes? And if we get any leeway with that, we leave this tabled until after the survey. If we get little to no response, then we know that this is going to be a waste of time.
So we table it.
I'm rescinding my second. And I want a motion to table this until we know how the next survey goes, or
I'll
our
second
current
that.
survey.
So I gotta pull my motion.
Yes,
I've got a
yeah.
final thought on this. I've got a final thought on this for myself. I I believe that the manager should live in town. But as we've said many times, we also don't want to be tying the hands of the council in 20 years with something that is untenable because we didn't see it coming. As it's written, you can hire from anywhere. Council should be encouraging their manager to have a residence here. They should be encouraging them to be around, to be open to the public, be open to the council and whatnot. I would say leave it the way it is. And leave it up to the council to encourage by contract their candidates to move to Millinocket, or to adjust that as they need to make it worthwhile. But I mean, let's give them tools and let's give them encouragement to do it. But I'm not sure we want to be nailing them down on something that we don't get just yet.
Well, I guess my point, Wally, is this. If I was going to be looking at the manager's position, so there's an opening, I was going to apply for that position, and I lived in Florida. And I said, this is a retirement spot for me, but I don't want to live there. And so I interview, and I have a very good interview, and the council said, oh, we want you. And I say, fine, but I'm going to be living in Florida. Without that statement in there, needs to become a resident, then that person has the upper hand in discussing, well, your charter says this. Because if I've got my sense about me, I'm going to check out the town's charter. And if it leaves that open, I have my out.
Yeah, but the charter is a tool that I use. If I'm on the council that's hiring you and you want to live in Florida, I would have to look at it real hard. And chances are I'd say, I'm sorry, and boy, that I really wish it could have worked out, but it does not, because I don't want you in Florida. I want you in Millinocket.
Richard.
I mean, even no matter what the charter says, that's what I would say is hiring you, and I would try to influence my other councilors to vote that way.
That would be common sense.
Yeah, it would be.
It'd be common sense if they did not want to live here. They wanted to live in Florida, run the town. It's not feasible. The common sense
No.
shows you won't be able to manage it that way.
Go be a manager in Florida.
So what Richard is, Wally's point is that what Richard is offering is hamstringing future councils.
I say we
don't
leave it
think
as
it's
is.
hamstringing. I still motion that we table this till after the survey is done.
Okay.
I second that.
Yeah, I'll
Table.
second that too.
Would
Yeah.
you take the lead on that? Before I vote, would you take a lead on that?
No.
We're
I'm
just
managing
tabling
the
it,
minutes and the charter. I mean, I have enough going on as it is, and I think that should be the chair or the co-chair that deal with that with the manager and Amber. I mean, I'll definitely be a part of the talks, but I don't want to be in charge of it.
How about you, Richard? You willing to take that on?
If we table it until after we get the survey back from the first survey,
I
Okay.
agree.
so we can see what the survey results happen with that survey.
Okay,
Is
so
the public that interested?
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
so hold on.
Yeah. If we
So
if we
just
want
table
that
it for now.
15 people to enter in the survey.
Okay, so C301, we need a rescind of the motion. We have a rescind of the.
Already
second.
did. Second was rescinded. I said, I pulled it.
Okay.
So there's no motion on the table.
Right.
And
No motion.
now we need a motion to table C3101.
I motion we table C301 until after the
I
survey is
second.
completed.
And I seconded it.
Move and
Okay,
second it.
so now you guys. Then there's no discussion on tabling.
Right.
Roll call vote here. Wally,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
and Sandra,
Yes,
Bob,
Aye.
Gage. Gage,
Yes, sorry, I couldn't.
and the chair, yes, makes it unanimous. table pending results of first survey. That's what I'll put in a minute.
Response results.
And I won't explain why we're tabling it. I don't want to start any discussion out there.
Yeah. No, I think maybe if we all think about it, we might be able to come up with,
It might, the fact that we have two table items might just bring some public interest. And
Look,
looking
I'll
at-
try to do a little research on it, Louis, and see if I can come up with other communities and how they've handled it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, it's 6:34, we're past the adjournment time.
I thought we were going till 7. Am I mistaken?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Okay,
I have a health issue that requires timely
okay,
tending to,
okay.
and I'm a half hour over.
I move we adjourn.
second.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all those in favor, Wally,
Well, yes.
Matt,
Aye.
Richard,
Yeah.
Sandra,
Yes.
Bob,
Aye.
Gabe,
I should have said nay.
Yes.
and the chair, I makes it
Yeah.
unanimous again. Gentlemen,
Okay.
it's been interesting.
Yeah, this is a good discussion. This has been fun.
been.
been-
Have a
good
good
one.
evening, all.
Bye.
Have a fun vacation, Matt.
Oh, it's great. I get to see ash and clouds.